Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is either going to be my first or second video, but today I'm going to be reading an article about the Titanic Olympic swap theory and disproving it because it's just not possible and it's been disproven a trillion times, but I'll do it again. The Titanic sank, the Olympic was scrapped in the 30s. Not the other way around. I'm going to start reading this, and I'm going to say everything that's wrong with it. On April 14th, 1912, the Titanic sank after hitting an iceberg off Newfoundland. The sinking killed 1,513 of the people who were on board the largest ocean liner in the world at the time. The unsinkable ship, as it was called, became one of the greatest maritime tragedies in history, which will be 111 years old in 2023. It's past that now, but it's fine. But perhaps the story is not quite as it is told. Oh, God. We're not referring to the romance between Jack and Rose in James Cameron's film, but to what happened when the ship sank. There is a widespread theory that the ship that hit the iceberg was not the Titanic, but her sister ship, the Olympic, in a ploy to collect the company's insurance. Titanic was not insured for more than they lost. I'm going to actually, give you the exact numbers now, because I'm it's just not true. The loss, so they just spent, 3 years building Titanic? So, if I look up right now, how much was Titanic insured for? Yeah, it was underinsured. It was worth $7.5 million, that's how much they spent, but it was only insured for $5 million. Meaning, they would have still lost, $3.5 million? That wouldn't help them. And then people claim, oh, but the Olympic was older, so they'll just sink that one and make it a big thing to get insurance money. The Olympic was just over a year older. It wasn't alright, the theory. Titanic didn't sink, Olympic did. The official version says they hit an iceberg and the ship sank. The giant chunk of ice grazed the ship, starting to flood the holds in every compartment of the ship. The blow caused a 120 meter long breach in the hull, yet experts say underwater ice from an iceberg could not cause a crack of that size in the 2.5 centimeter double plank steel hull that covered the Titanic structure. Probably because that's not what happened. That's not how this happened. It wasn't like a scrape in the hull of the ship. It was it pushed the plates apart, severing them. That's how it works. Pressure, like you see whenever the glass shatters. It points directly to the ship's captain, Edward Smith, who is said not to have changed course south to avoid the larger icebergs. He was a sailor of 25 years' experience and knew the route perfectly, so it is surprising that he did not act after seeing 7 iceberg warnings issued earlier that day. Not even going to go into this right now, but it's not that simple. Furthermore, as can be seen in the film itself, the lookout was unable to see the iceberg any earlier because he did not have his binoculars at his disposal. Another common myth, that's just not true. It was pretty much pitch black. What are you going to see through binoculars whenever it's pitch black outside? More pitch blackness, pitch darkness. You're not going to be able to see that with icebergs. They wouldn't have even used binoculars on that night. It wouldn't have changed a thing. Furthermore, as can be seen in the film itself, the lookout was unable to see the icebergs any earlier because he didn't. We already read that, my bad. There were many coincidences, also taking into account that 5 days after the Titanic left, another ship of similar dimensions and belonging to the same owner, J.P. Morgan, left loaded only with blankets and jumpers and remained anchored close to the scene of the disaster. What are they talking about? Okay, hold on. Hold on. I'm curious now. What are they talking about? What is this on about? I actually don't know what this is. Hold on. What do you talk? Oh, another White Star liner. What? The Titanic left Southampton Harbor with half of the lifeboats. Here's another, the biggest myth that everyone believes, probably the single biggest one, is that there weren't enough lifeboats. And while it's true that there weren't enough lifeboats for everyone on board, out of the 20 lifeboats on board, 18 were launched. There could have been 100 lifeboats on board, and 18 still would have been launched. Realistically, if there were more lifeboats on board, more people, they would have probably just gotten in the way and more people would have died. So, like, honestly, it's not like if there were more lifeboats, more people would be alive. That's just not true. Okay, Titanic left Southampton Harbor. Okay, the ship had a capacity for 3,327 people, but there were only boats for about 1,178. But the company, White Star... Okay, I thought that was grammatical. But the company, White Star Line, stressed that this was for aesthetic reasons so as to not overload the deck. Every single ocean liner by that time didn't... It wasn't a law by then that you had to have enough lifeboats for everyone on board. It wasn't a law. You had to have a certain percentile of your passengers had to be able to get in the lifeboats. That's it. Oh, what's more, the Titanic's radio was switched off before the... Why did I just say it like that? The Titanic's radio was switched off minutes before the collision, missing an iceberg warning from the ship called the California. Are you kidding me? You got it wrong. The California's radio was switched off minutes before the collision, missing an iceberg warning from... That's just not even true. What? The California, yeah, it issued an iceberg warning. I think they're talking about the whole, like, the fact that the California could have saved people or whatever. But they phrased that wrong, if that's what they're talking about. I don't know if that's what they're talking about here. I'm confused. 40 minutes later, the Titanic crashed. Another detail concerns the flares used. The SOS flares are red, but Captain Smith fired the white ones, symbolizing celebration. What was the purpose of the sinking? All this led to the collision and sinking of the liner. It was said that the aim was to deceive the insurance company. Once again, the RMS Titanic was insured for $5 million, and it was worth $7.5 million. That means that they would have still lost $2.5 million completely without a use. And you know what's crazy? All these theories only exist because it's the Titanic. If it was some random other liner that just happened to strike an iceberg and wasn't the most famous one in the world, this theory wouldn't exist. Alright, here we go with the Olympic stuff now. In fact, Captain Smith had previously commanded the Olympic, which had a collision with an English ship, as if the Olympic's not an English ship as well. They're both... Oh, okay. Which, not being insured, could not be repaired, while the Titanic was repaired by the company. What? The Olympic was repaired. That halted the construction on the Titanic. They're talking about the collision with the British cruiser Hawke, which halted the construction of the Titanic. That's what they're talking about here. Both ships were moored in the same shipyard. It is said that at the time the hulls were renamed. That's... Dude, the name tags aren't painted on. They're like riveted into, or they're indented. It's not like paint. You can't just do that. Both ships were moored in the same ship. Okay, that's what I just read, my bad. Is this it? It is an accident that is also related to the creation of the Federal Reserve. Morgan wanted to create the Federal Reserve, which acts as the U.S. Central Bank, but is in fact privately owned. But it was something that not everyone wanted, such as Guggenheim, Strauss, or the Astor families, who coincidentally were traveling on the Titanic. Guggenheim, Strauss, and the Astor families actually supported the Federal Reserve, the creation of the Federal Reserve. Watch. It's publicly known. Well, just do some research on it and you'll find out it's very publicly known that they actually supported them. They were very open about it. Moreover, another detail is that J.P. Morgan, despite the fact that this was his ship's first voyage, decided not to go on it, as did 50 of his partners who also supported the creation of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve was created in 1913, a year after the sinking. It was created in 1913, but that has nothing to do with the ship. All right, this is it. Closing 2 paragraphs. As if that were not enough, trips to the depths of the ocean to see the wreckage of the ship in 1985 found no 121-meter-long breach, but 50-centimeter holes in the hull, explaining why they've been caused from explosions on the inside the ship. Maybe because the 120-meter-long breach, which it wasn't that's not the actual measurement, but the breach is 60 feet below the sand, the silt. In addition, they say that the ship's propellers say Olympic and not Titanic. Once again, the ship's propellers are so deep within the sand, we're never going to be able to see them. That's why, there's the whole dispute on whether Titanic's central propeller had 4 or 3 blades, because we don't know. If it was so simple to see it, then we would. It's not that easy. That's that paragraph, and I'm just going to show you how simple it is. Watch. RMS Titanic bow wreck. Watch this. Okay, let's see. What's this? Hold on. Okay, here's a 3D scan of the bow section. Right? Look at this. Do you see the enclosed A-deck promenade? Right there. Do you see how it's enclosed? Here, let me disprove this theory in 5 milliseconds. Here's the Olympic after the Titanic sank. Look. You can see this. It's an open A-deck promenade. Here's another thing. The Titanic RMS. The wheelhouse on the Titanic, the inside, was square. It was square. And on the Olympic, it was circular. So, there's another theory. There's so many. Hold on. You can even see Titanic nameplate on. It's really torn. I feel like when I was younger, when I was 7 and I was reading that, there was an eyewitness book that had a picture. It was this. This is not something similar. Here you go. Something like this. So the name probably isn't very visible on the wreck, especially. But in 1985, it might have been. Yeah, you can see right there. That's very visibly a T. Did the Olympic have a T in its name? No. T, I, T, A, Tia. There's the N, I, and C. So there's Titanic's nameplate. Tell you it's not painted on because you can still see the bilge gill paint. Anyways, that's my disproving of the crappy Olympic Titanic swap theory. Tell me which theory I should disprove next. There's a few others which are really funny. So yeah, tell me which ocean liner video I should do next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.